I'm Shelly Turner with the Builderall team. In this video, I'm going to show you how to add an email marketing form and how to connect it to Mailing Boss. So as you can see, I'm in the Cheetah Builder and I'm working on adding my email marketing form to my website. So to do that, I need to go to Add on the right-hand side and then go to Element, and then I'm going to go down to Email Marketing Form. I'm going to click that one time, and it's going to show me some examples of some existing email marketing forms. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this one here. I'm going to click and drag it over and drop it onto my panel. And when I drop it onto my panel, the first thing it does is ask me which subscriber list in Mailing Boss do I want to connect it to. So I'm going to go ahead and just connect it to Tuesday Test and then select. And what it's going to do is it's going to get the information from that subscriber list and find out what fields are in that subscriber list. So I have first name field and email field, so it's added that to the email marketing form. And now I can move it around and put it exactly where I want it to be, stretch it out a little bit. And the next step is to actually configure the form to make it look the way I want it to look. So I can click on the form and I get my mini toolbar where I can choose to center. I can click the little link icon here to change the list that it's connected to in Mailing Boss. I can hide this item, duplicate this item, or delete it using the trash can. And then I can get to the settings by right-clicking my form, and that has several different settings that I can set up. So I can go into General Settings, and I can show my labels. So those are the labels like this right here. If I uncheck it, it takes those labels away and only has the placeholders inside of the fields. If I don't want to show the placeholders, I can uncheck that, and it even takes the placeholders out. I'm going to go ahead and leave the placeholders there. I can also change the size. So right now you can see the width of the button. If I make that smaller, I can actually make that button appear smaller inside of the form. I'm going to go ahead and stick with 100%. On input style, I can actually start changing the font and the field areas. So let's go ahead and work with changing some of the font areas. So the first one is the font style. I can choose Arial, and it's set to 18, but I can make that larger. So you can see that I can change the size of that. On the input height, I can change the size of that, so I can make my fields a little bit higher, a little bit bigger. Then the input border, right now we've got a light border of 1. If I wanted to make the borders more prominent, I can make them bigger. Or I can even change from a solid to a dotted, or a dashed, or a double line. I actually like the single line, so I'm going to keep it solid, and I'm going to put it back to 1. The input radius, I can make the corners look a little bit different. And you can see that there's the radius right there. So if I click on that and right-click it to go to the settings, I can change it so it's just rounded all the way around. So let's do 25, 25, 25, 25. So we're changing the roundness of the field areas. And then the input background color. Right now, the background color is a grayish color. Now I can change the background color, and that's the background of the button. So I can change that color to match what I've got going on my website. So we'll go to kind of a yellowish color. And now I can change the border. And right now this listed as a 4 on the button. So I can change that to a different color. So we'll change it to a yellowish color. Or we could even take it completely away by making it a 0 and having no border color on the button. Then we can change the radius on the button. And this is where I can change it 25, 25, 25, 25. And that makes the button completely rounded on the edges. And then the button headline, it says register now. I can change the font size of that. So we'll make it a little bit bigger. There we go. We'll put an exclamation point on there. I can even put an icon on there. So I'm going to show the icon list. We have a bunch of icons. So let me see if I can find an arrow. Several different arrows. So let's see if we can find one that we want to use. This one right here is good. And select. And so now I've got my arrow on there, and I can even put maybe a couple spaces in there to separate out the arrow from the actual letters. And then I can align left or right, and I can do the button subheadline here. So I can put subtext here and change the font style. And then also I can create a shadow. And for the shadow, I'm going to create a little bit of a shadow. So let me right click on the form and scroll over here to a gray color and then add my shadow here a little bit, make it not so big. There we go. So now we've got a shadow on the button, so it kind of pops out. So now we've created our email marketing form and set it up to look exactly like how we want it. And at any time you can go in and change those settings so you can continually make it exactly the way you want it. Make sure to go into preview and go ahead and type in and make sure that everything is showing exactly the way you want your user to see it. Once it looks okay in preview, go back to the editor. And always remember that you have the ability to do a couple things with this now that you've edited it and made it the way you want it. If you right click it and then go to animation, you've got some animation settings. So if you want to animate it based on time or when it becomes visible, or if somebody clicks on it or they hover on it, you can set the start time, and then here are the effects. So it could be bounce, flash, pulse, rubber band. We'll take a quick look at the bounce, and we'll do it on time. We'll set it at 0 seconds, and we'll set the speed at slow. So when we do that, if we do a preview, you'll see that it actually bounces. So that's the animation setting for that email marketing form. We can also right click and go to advanced, and this allows us to work with the layers. So we can layer it on top of something or behind something. And then we can also choose to name this element and save it as an element that will show up in our personal settings as well. So we can use it on additional pages in this website or even a completely different website in this same account. Now that I've got this set up in the desktop, let's take a look at mobile. So I'm going to click on the mobile view. And there's our form in the mobile view. If I right click it here, I've got all of these settings in style, but any of these settings that you change will change the desktop. So if you want to make a change, you go into the advanced settings, and this is where you can change some of the padding or spacing information to make the spacing a little bit better for your mobile. If it just doesn't work out and you want to do a completely different form because it doesn't look the way you want it to look, you can actually hide this form, create a new form inside of the mobile view, and configure it the way you want it to look in mobile. Let me go back to desktop. And that's how you add and edit your email marketing form inside your editor. Have fun building something amazing in Cheetah.